So, here's the real question. How do dentists like you, who aren't willing to let insurance dictate how you will run your practice, who want to create incredibly profitable practices without sacrificing your time or sanity, how do you create the strategies to ensure your practice not only survives, but thrives in the 21st century? That's the blaring question, and Dr. Steve Schalintz is here to provide the answers. Welcome to Dental Practice Freedom Radio.
What is up, everybody? This is Dr. Steve Schalintz. I want to welcome you back to Dental Practice Freedom Radio. And today what I'm going to talk about is not dental related specifically, but I was thinking about this and how this applies to practices in the 21st century. And one of the things that I love, if you guys know me at all, you know that I have an actual book club on Facebook where we discuss a book a month. And I write a summary for it, and we do a Zoom meeting, and it's really exciting. I love doing that. It's one of my guilty pleasures. And right now I'm looking at a book and another book and another book right in front of me. And I think that reading is absolutely critical, whether it's an audiobook or reading, a physical copy or a Kindle. Books have a way of stimulating ideas for me, not just from the books I'm reading, but other ideas. And how to put that in a dental practice. But that's beside the point. What I want to talk about is business models in general and how we have to adapt in our practices and in our business or we will go under. So I want to give you a really good example. I love Barnes & Noble. I really do. I love the smell of the books. I love the fact that I can get a mocha from Starbucks at their cafe and then walk around and look at all the different titles of the books. And there's something very, very cool about that entire process. But if you're like me at all, there's going to be a few that buy books, and I'm actually still a member at Barnes & Noble. I just got a membership, mainly because I saved some money on the coffee, and they had a free coffee every month to get me in. I know why they do it. That's a loss leader for them. They get me in, I get the coffee, and then hopefully I buy a book. But here's the problem. I have not bought a regularly priced book at Barnes & Noble in probably 5 years. I might get a bargain book if I can't find it. But what do you guys probably do if you're like me in Barnes & Noble? Well, if you're like me, what you do is you find all the books that you like and you're like, oh, that's great. I want that book. I want that book. I want that book. And then I take a picture of every book, take a picture of the cover, and then I go to Amazon and buy them. And I save about $12 a book. And the rationale for Barnes & Noble was always it's harder to have a brick and mortar store. So online, Barnes & Noble can actually compete with Amazon at pricing. And they're pretty equivalent. Amazon, you still, in my opinion, you save more money. But, at Barnes & Noble, you can save some money. And it's just more convenient to get them on Amazon. But I understand that. But to go into Barnes & Noble and actually pay $10 to $12 more a book makes zero sense to me. And so I was starting to think about that. And how does Barnes & Noble actually adapt their sales strategy to be able to meet the demand or meet, the competition that is Amazon? And now it's gotten even worse. So now, I didn't even know I could do this. There's a thing called Prime Now. And because I'm in Charlotte, they have a little bit more delivery and distribution. I wanted to run this test, and it was so interesting. So what I actually did is I went into Barnes & Noble. I found books that I like. I went on Amazon Prime Now. I found 3 of those books, and they were going to be able to deliver me the books in 2 hours. So by the time I got home, I already had the books. So I didn't even get the immediacy that you would normally get by buying the book in the store. I need that book now. Isn't that incredible how fast that has changed? I mean, that was not the case 5 years ago. Definitely wasn't the case 10 years ago. And I remember when Amazon, when I first started using Amazon for the majority of, my online purchases, it was probably, 10 years ago maybe. And now it's just completely morphed. And it seems like Amazon is literally buying everything. But the reason I bring this up, because I think it's so interesting, and that Barnes & Noble fought that idea for so long that now they're struggling. I look in their stores. I see the difference now than they were 5 to 10 years ago. No one's buying books. What do people do in Barnes & Noble? They go to the cafe, they get their coffee, they go pick some magazines out, they go read some books, or they go study. It's a glorified coffee shop. And now they have this huge space with all this inventory that they have that they can't get off the shelves. So that's incredible to me. And I started to think about this in practices. And how are you adapting? How are you learning? How are you modifying? How are you using the marketplace? And how are you crafting a vision that allows you to stay fresh in the 21st century, regardless of what's going on in insurance? And, you know, if you have a membership plan or whatever the case may be, how are you adapting your strategy so you're not Barnes & Noble, but you're more like Amazon? I want you to be thinking about that in your practice. And take heed, look at what's going on in the world around you in business, and be savvy about those things in your practice. What are some things that maybe some practices that you have seen online that are doing that are like, wow, that's really innovative. I love doing that. I want to incorporate that in my practice. Go figure out how they're doing what they're doing and then put it in your practice. Don't wait and wait and wait. Because, you know, I hear a lot of dentists, they complain about insurance, they complain about their patients, and nobody values dentistry and X, Y, and Z. That will continue to happen if you continue to complain about it and do nothing unique and different. So you do have to, at some level, get involved with your practice and be innovative. Don't be reckless, but be innovative. Think of ways that you can be more like Amazon. How can you push the envelope with what you do in your practice so that you can be on the forefront of change and not waiting and waiting and waiting, and then by the time you change, it's too late. Barnes & Noble will not be around, in my opinion, I could be totally wrong, in 5 to 10 years. Not in its current entity. The only thing that I think Barnes & Noble could do is basically scrap the majority of their brick and mortar stores, consolidate their space, and create a unique environment where somebody would be immersed in the idea of having an experience with the books rather than just walking through and buying books on Amazon. So, or they can price match. They can do one of the two, but if they price match, they're dead anyway because they'll never be able to compete with Amazon on price in a brick and mortar store. So I want you to be thinking about that. How can you be unique and different? How can you learn from experiences in other businesses? And don't wait until it's too late, because if you try to change when it's too late, it's just going to be even more painful for you. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully you got something out of this episode. As always, I know I always throw this in here. I think it's very, very important. If you guys are getting value out of this podcast, please leave a review, leave a rating on iTunes, or wherever you listen to this podcast. That would mean the world to me. It helps me understand what you guys are liking, what you're not liking, and that allows me to get a better podcast for you. And if you go to Dental Practice Freedom Radio, you will be able to opt in and get a bonus Case Acceptance Master Pack, which is 5 videos that I have about how to increase case acceptance in your practice. It's one of the things that I teach and I help my clients with. And so I want you to have that as a gift, just as a thank you for checking out my podcast. So hopefully you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode on Dental Practice Freedom Radio with Dr. Steve Schlintz. We'll see you on the next episode.